Welcome to my driveway crotch party. Today, as you can imagine, we're sawing some crotch. We're sawing walnut crotch. So we have a couple of crotch chunks to saw. We got this giant one here we're gonna cut first. It's, I don't know, like 4 feet wide-ish, somewhere in there, at least that, you know, through some of the wider parts. And then we got this guy, which has a few different crotch things going on in different orientations that we'll deal with. Also quite large. So I just got a new blade on the saw. So that's the once a year annual carbide blade change. So let's go ahead and get sawing. I don't really have a whole use for this stuff, but it feels like a waste to just chop it and throw it away. So I'll get a few little cookie things out of here. I'll make those cuts until we get down into, you know, where we're kind of into all the limbs. And what we're trying to do here is have the crotch figure from this crotch and this crotch in the same slab. This is kind of weird, like the sawdust is just stuck right there where the grain direction changes. Very weird. Let's take a quick look. We got this guy and we got, what are these? We got 4 of these things here. 4 kind of oblong cookie things. So these are pretty cool. There's some really interesting, fun little bits of figure here. There's a couple of pits, so this was splitting out to become multiple limbs out from this big main limb. And kind of stepping down, we start seeing the same kind of stuff amplify. You got the pits, and just kind of a fun shape. This one's got a lot more of that figure. All these figure bursts up here. There we go. So there's that nice band of figure up top there, or I guess towards the bottom. This is technically the top, and just a really cool, like, intertwining of the colors down here. And we just keep kind of getting bigger. We got the little figure burst up here. It's fun, the intertwining colors and everything. And like always, since we're sawing walnut, this green color is eventually going to oxidize and turn more of this purpley color. That was a goofy one. That's cool. So where that fuzziness was, that was holding off the sawdust, is the actual end grain of the limb coming. Where are we here? Going this way. Coming out of the tree there. It's got a lot of stuff going on here. Okay, so those are those first, I don't know, what we had 5 cuts in. We just clipped the top of there, so I think we have 2 more partials before we get into the other 2 limbs here. There's a shell from something. Maybe a walnut shell? I don't know. Let's take a quick break so I can tend to my giant steam box here. I'm finally flattening those warped slabs that I started flattening last year. And while we're up here by the barn, I can tell you about this video sponsor, BetterHelp. I learned pretty early on in my journey the importance of my mental health. There was a time where I thought I could just keep pushing myself to do more and more until I found that point where I had gone too far, and then all the joy I felt in life just disappeared. I was somehow able to work through that, but I always wondered how different it would have been had I had the help of a therapist to get me through that time. And that's why I'm so excited that BetterHelp is sponsoring this video. They're on a mission to make starting therapy easier. And it was super easy. I filled out a questionnaire and I was matched with a therapist within a day or two. I didn't quite know what to expect going into my first sessions, but my therapist has been asking me some really great, insightful questions, and I'm taking this as a good opportunity to continue on with my own personal growth, because if you're not growing, what the heck are you even doing? In case you're worried about being paired with a therapist that's not the right fit, you can switch therapists at any time for no additional cost. Click the link in the description or go to betterhelp.com/MatthewCremona and get 10% off your first month of therapy. Thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring this video. These slabs are going to hang out here for a bit and we're going to head back to the sawmill. Okay, it looks like we're getting into something a little more exciting now. Yeah, there we go. Got a little bark inclusion, is that what that is? Yeah, like a tiny bark inclusion and some weird coloring around it. There's like a lot of stuff going on up in here. Besides all the ants scurrying around. This is cool, all of this. And then we got the little bit of figure here. That's compression figure for the bottom of this limb coming up this way. Okay, this one looks pretty promising. We got a bit of a bark inclusion thing going on, a little bigger now, but it also looks like we have some crotch figure happening around it. Oh yeah, that's starting to look quite nice. So a lot of cool stuff always happens around bark inclusions, so we got some really cool stuff happening there. And it's just pretty well all clear. This is all gonna be sapwood, I think, for the most part, because we're just like barely below the bark. This is gonna look really cool in like 20 minutes when it darkens up from this kind of weird green color. In case you're curious about this line, that's where I paused to move the cameras. I'm alone today. So if we're looking at slabs, you see these weird lines. That's where I stopped the saw to walk around. Okay, so since this thing is so stable still, I'm gonna go through and make one more cut. That'll bottom out the throat here. And then I'll probably just have like a remainder piece that we can flip over and saw a little something out of. Surprise! Let's see what we got here. We're starting to get into some crotch stuff. We got that nice bar conclusion, and yeah, the mixing here where the heartwood and the sapwood kind of intertwined is pretty darn cool. But since this one was sitting on top of the stack, it has oxidized a bit, so you can see it's darkened up quite a bit. It still has a ways to go, but it's a lot less green than it was before. Like if you look at the next one, this is like super, super light still. Hasn't oxidized at all. But this one, we're starting to get into the crotch figure here from this crotch. So that's starting to show some kind of hints of crotch. And then down here, we're actually getting into the crotch figure from this limb. And you can see all the undulation here on the outside of the tree. We're starting to get the actual feather here. And this is pretty big. Let me get some measurements on this real quick. This is definitely one of those logs that looked a lot smaller laying out in the field. So down here at the narrow end is 36. Here, we're at 54. And then kind of up here, it's like 51. So that's a big piece of wood just in itself. That's pretty crazy. Okay, this one I want to take a look at by itself because I think this is going to be the nicest one of the whole set. Yeah, that's a lot. Crotch City. This ain't no Burrow Land. This is Crotch City. So we got a nice band of crotch right through here with my paws smack dab in the middle of the cuts. Look how much crotch figure there is in here. And look at all this like crazy curl and figuring happening around it. Oh, that's primo right there. That is a nice slice of wood. I stood this one up to get a better look at it, and this is the back side of it, which is going to be what we're going to see on the next one. I just wanted to see what this is. Oh, that's even better. Dang. Look at all that. That's all crotch all the way down. That's crazy. That is a beautiful piece of wood. Good job, tree. Wow. And I didn't even mention it yet, but a few videos ago, I cut up a log for Steve and his son, Kyle. And in exchange, they left me this log and that log as a thank you. So this section here was like on top of the section that I cut for them. So this was like, what was that, like 14 feet in the air, 16 feet in the air, something like that. That's a big piece of wood to be way up in the air. Just look at that. There's so much going on here. We got this great little bar conclusion right here in the middle. This right here is the pith of the tree. So someone did a pretty good job of lining up that log on the saw because the pith is continuous from one end to the other. And what we didn't see before was this old limb that was here that created some more crotch figure in that area too. And there's There's the pith from that limb, just like perfectly bisected. Almost. Got a little bit of run out right here, but pretty much in plane with the rest of the pith from the rest of the log. And there is some figure down here too. There's a few little ripples of figure in that area. Okay, this one is going to be a book match of what we just looked at, but let's see how this, oh, wow. I mean, it's exactly the same thing, but it's just, you know, the inverse. God, this is so beautiful. Look how big this crotch feather is. And they like meet perfectly. Holy crap. Just look at all that. Amazing. Amazing. Yeah, I got this lined up really nicely. Let me just pat myself on the back a little bit. Some days I know what I'm doing. Because I got that pith aligned really nicely and straightly, I exposed basically the maximum amount of crotch figure you're gonna get on the faces. And like we even got that bonus crotch figure here. We got the figure right around through here. All of that. Oh, beautiful. Okay, let's see what this one's got going on. Got a little bark inclusion thing there where it looks like we're kind of almost out of crotch figure down there. All right, bad boy, let's go. Matt, why do you use a bucket and not a hose? Well, how much fun is that? Look at that, instant transformation from boring, gloomy wood to amazing, figured, colorful amazingness. Look at all this. Gorgeous, just gorgeous. I kind of like this because it's a little more, I mean, I like that better. I like actual feather better, but this where it's a little more subdued is kind of a cool look as well. If you're not into that much, that's a lot more dramatic. This is a little more subdued, but it's still visually interesting and unique. And on this side, you can see we're through all of the feather. We just had that little bit of like hints of where the crotch was. It's a big piece of wood. That's certainly for sure. All right, it's getting kind of late in the day. I gotta go make dinner. So I think tomorrow we'll flip this guy over and make, I think we're gonna get one more cut out of that. And then we'll get on to the other crotch log thingamabobber. All right, good morning. Let's flip this thing over and see what else is in there. Now it's wood, that's for sure. That's got some fun, like, circular grain to it. Like, I love when we get to this part of the logs because it's like continuous grain. Where all these cathedrals actually form a continuous loop around things. Love that look. Let's see better on this side. There we go. such a cool grain. It's like a little heart shape in there. That's super cool. Okay, as I'm getting set up to start processing this next one, I wanted to show you this again. Now that it has been sitting out oxidizing overnight, you see a lot of the greens are going to be gone now, and this is more what it's going to look like when it's actually done and dry and everything. It's got a lot more of that purpley, chocolatey brown stuff going on. Yeah, it's got a much richer look to it now. How's that? Oh, that looks way better than yesterday. I mean, it looked amazing yesterday, but today, that looks even more incredible. Got some glare. Yeah, now you can actually see the compression figure down here. That's a little more obvious. There's some compression figure there. There's some down here too. You can see the ripples and lumps on the outside of the tree here. They translate into the actual ripple, the curl lines inside of the tree here. Okay. So that's that one all sawn up and ready to be stacked and put away. I'm gonna get this stuff off of here, get things tied up a little bit, and then we'll get into this guy here. Okay, so the short story on this one is that I'm gonna cut it in half right here so I can get crotch figure from both ends. So for this section here, I want this kind of crotch area here, but for this section, I want the crotch that's gonna be produced from here to here. I'm basically gonna just ignore this situation here. So these two crotch sections are currently oriented 90 degrees from each other. So if I were just to cut it like this, you would have kind of a bullseye pattern down here, and then some crotch figure up here, and then the inverse, if I did the other way, I'd have crotch figure down here and a bullseye kind of thing down there. I don't really need the length. I really want the figure out of these. So the best thing for me is going to be to cut this into two so I can process them individually 90 degrees from each other. All right, so workflow for these guys is I'm gonna make my facing cuts on both of them and then roll them over and we can cut them both at the same time. It should be pretty good right there. There. I think that's high enough. Close enough. Okay, we got some bonus boards, which we'll take a look at in a little bit. In a second, I'm gonna flip the scale over real quick and yeah. Let's take a look at these bonus boards before we get back to sawing. Well, that's all curly. That's cool. Good thing I didn't throw that away. So just like before, this was stuff to oxidize, but this has, you can see the waviness in the grain where the oxidation kind of ends for now. It's all curly. You can kind of see the banding through there. So that's cool. Everybody likes a good bit of bonus wood that happens to be figured. So that's very promising for what's going to be inside of here. So I'm going to run through here. I have the saw scale set up so that I can come down and make double 4/4 cuts. So that's going to be basically a heavy 9/4, 2 3/8 of an inch thick, and we can run through and slice these things all the way down, and we'll have some figured slab things to look at. All right, we have one more cut to make, but I can't clear this right now because it's too tall. So we're gonna pull back the top layer and get those out of the way before making the next cut. We might as well take a look at those ones while we're at it. There's not a whole lot of stuff going on here. I mean, the grain's cool, like the shape of the grain is cool, but I have no notes. I made an extra cut on this one because that first one was getting kind of small. It'd be kind of this weird like wedged piece. So I figured it'd be more useful as 2 pieces at half the thickness. I don't know what you're gonna do with this, but got a nice cathedral thing going on there. You know, bonus wood, bonus cathedral. Oh. Uncomfortably heavy. Let's see what we got going on here. Oh, there's a lot going on here. This one's got a lot going on. Yeah, all this crazy stuff up here, all kinds of figure and crazy stuff going all the way down through here. And this is the start of the crotch feather. So this is very, very promising. Very promising. Oh yeah. This one's not going to be much anything. Maybe. Maybe it's got some curl. Who knows? Let's see. Yeah. Not much anything. Cool grain and everything, but I got no notes on this one. What are you doing? What are you doing? Pancake, what are you doing? Are you burying something? Ooh, bark inclusion in this one. Oh, no peeking. This one's gonna be awesome. I can already tell. All crotch. Totally crotch. It's like all crotch all the way down. Yeah, that's beautiful. I like when there's a little bit of bark inclusion in here because it does help to break up the figure a little bit and give you a little more visual interest than just, I don't know, 4-foot long feather. You get something going on in the middle there. But yeah, it's all kinds of fun stuff happening up there. All right, that's good. What about this guy? What do you got for us? Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, we're starting to get a little bit closer to the actual crotch figure. So you see it's like this weird discolored wide band thing through here. That's like the outside of the crotch starting to show through. That looks really cool. I love when the grain just kind of comes down, whoop, and then goes right back up again. That is very cool. Show me what you got, crotch. Oh, wow. This is kind of got like a double thing going on. You have like the main band of crotch, And then we're getting this other piece here because this is where that extra limb split thing happens. So there's one limb coming up this way, and there's the other one going down that way. So this is intersecting the crotch figure from those two on a bias next to the main crotch figure of the main connection between the two. Kind of a fun one. There's your little bullseye. So this is, that limb's coming this way. Man, this is crazy. Oh, there's some curl down there too. So a good piece of wood. Good job, wood. That one's already kind of wet from the last one I splashed, but there's some more for it. Yeah, that's a solid crotch band feather thing. Yeah, just a big old bunch of crotch. All right, I'm gonna do this one first because I think this one's gonna be better than the other one. Because I think we are through most of the crotch figure on the other guy. So that's all crotch. Nothing but crotch. It's kind of interesting though. I haven't seen any of the curl that we saw on the bottom side. So it might just be confined to the outside slabs. But otherwise, I mean, this is like, you know, you got your nice straight quarter sawn grain through here with your crotch figure. It doesn't get much more quintessential crotch than that. That's for sure. Let's see what's going on over here. What do you got for us? Where are we at here? Slab number 5 off of this guy. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We're kind of through to the middle of the crotch of this guy, so we're starting to get some of the top figure that you would get if you cut the crotch, whatever you want to call that, not across it. So you get this kind of figure up top. There's the limb as it's coming up this way. This is the space between the two limbs. So you get this little bit of like connective figure. This is crotch figure, but in a 90-degree orientation to what we got going on here. So those are two ways to saw crotch in one log. With the crotch, against the crotch. That's the figure you get. You get a bullseye with this thing on top. Otherwise, with the crotch, you get the full band of crotch figure all the way down. Okay, let's see what's left, or what's left. What's in the slabs that are left. Okay, we're through pretty much all the crotch figure. We just have a little tiny bit happening right here. Got the big old bullseyes. Now that limb is going that way. We got a nice little band of figure here and there on top. And then on this guy, what we got? The remainder of a little bit of crotch figure. I don't really see any of that curl either. That's weird. So all that curl must have been pretty much just isolated to the bonus boards that we pulled off of there. A little bit of fun stuff on top of there. It's another one of those crotches intersected. So this was going that way. So you got your top figure above your bullseye. That style of crotch. All right. So there we go. A couple sawmill sessions sawing up my favorite thing, crotch. And this stuff is absolutely beautiful. It's a great accent section for a piece of furniture or as a thing in itself. All kinds of fun figure and playful grain. I absolutely love it. Now comes the fun part, putting this all away and getting it stacked and stickered. I do like sawing for other people when they come by. You get to hear all their stories and socialize and, you know, commiserate over all the beautiful wood. But at the end of the day, you wave goodbye to it and the actual work goes away with the wood too. But it's just part of the adventure, right? It's not all sawdust and water splashes. There's quite a bit that goes into the processing from here on to before it gets into the shop. But anyway, that is going to do it for this one. Thank you to Steve and Kyle for dropping these off with their other log. This was absolutely amazing. I did talk to Steve real quick. Both of these are from the same tree that they brought. So I was kind of not sure about that because this one looked like it had been sitting around for a while, but I guess it had just been sitting out in the sun versus the bigger one, which had been a little more protected from the elements. So pretty cool. All the way from Iona, Michigan, all the way here to Stillwater, Minnesota. So thank you as always for watching. I greatly appreciate it. If you have any questions or comments on the sawmill or anything back in the shop, please feel free to leave me a comment. As always, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. And until next time, happy woodworking and crotch. Thanks for coming to my crotch party.